All right, it looks like we're live. Um, Forgive me because it's been a little bit of a mad dash here behind the scenes. Um, I used to be able to do like a quick stream on my laptop, but YouTube switched up what browsers they allow that on, and I don't have the browser that they wanted me to use, and I would have had to download it and everything, and it was a little bit of a pain in the butt, and so I wanted to get the stream launched as soon as possible, and so I'm just doing it on my cell phone here. I also don't know how in terms of super chats because I don't even know how to access them as I'm talking to you guys. So, but I mean, that's no big deal because the whole point of the stream is first and foremost to talk about what the hell happened with Bernie Sanders and the campaign and what happens now. And, I have a lot to say on that front. So, let me see. I don't know. What the fuck? What if I do that? What if I do that? I know 612 of you are watching. 612 of you are watching me be a massive boomer. Okay, well, I mean, I guess there will be no... super chats today. And I guess there will be no commenting, or if there is commenting, I definitely can't see it. So anyway, this will be... I want to lay out for everybody... exactly what happened with Bernie and with the campaign and what they're responsible for and what they're not responsible for. So what can we do to do introspection and, what can we fix moving forward? And there's a really interesting and important question there. But then also, what is not our fault? And I know that, listen, I went on Glenn Greenwald's podcast. I was honored to be one of his first guests. And you should check out his podcast. It's awesome. But one of the things that he kept saying is like, if we want to be serious, if we want to be the opposite of the corporate Democrats who lost and then blamed everybody else, we do need to take a moment to do introspection and to see, what we did wrong so we can fix it for the next time. And let me see if can I access this from here? Ooh, I might be able to. And I agree with him. We have to do introspection and we have to, see how we could get better. But that doesn't mean that there aren't also extenuating circumstances that we can talk about. And I feel like, the narrative is getting a little bit out of control where I think some people are blaming Bernie too much. And I think that some people are wrong, to say it kindly, in their breakdown of the situation. I figured out how to access everything right here. So maybe this will help me see if I can access some. Let's see. Come on, give it to me. Give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. What I can always do is this. I didn't eat breakfast either. It's bullshit. I'm fucking starving. I might eat breakfast as I talk to you guys before we get into the specifics of what happened with Bernie. Some things are the campaign's fault. Some things, it's Bernie's fault. But then other things were totally out of his control. And I don't think it's fair to not discuss any of those things as well. Excuse me, I know I'm a total mess, but this is what you get when you get a live stream and a moron like myself. I guess I should go to the video. Let's do that. Hey, everybody. Oh, chat disabled. There you go. That's why. Oh, whatever. So this is what happens when you try to slap together a live stream at the last minute. And see, they had a way to do it for boomers like me, where it's just like, click this button, idiot, and then you'll get a live stream. And I used to do it that way. But YouTube, within the past like couple months, decided, let's make this a hell of a lot more complicated for no damn reason. Well, actually, to be fair, they didn't necessarily do that, but they took away, you know, my browser for streaming, so I would have had to get a new browser, and I didn't want to go through all that BS, and I wanted to get the stream launched quickly, so I just did it on my phone. But anyway, I digress. Okay, no town hall questions. We'll work that out, and we'll do a town hall another time. But let's talk about Bernie, and let's talk about what happened. So first of all, I hope everybody's doing okay. Let's see, quarantine. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're staying inside. I hope you're not. I hope you got your money. I know most people didn't get their money yet. I gotta ask Corin because he was saying that he even had it on his bank account stuff on file with IRS, so they should have given his money by now. If they haven't, they're just a mess. Everything's a mess. But I hope everybody's staying safe out there. And I hope you're doing okay with the news, you know, that Bernie's out, because a lot of people thought, including myself, that he would hang around to the end because, you know, Biden looks like he's not doing too well, to say the least. So, you know, to have that as like an insurance option, and I know that the mainstream media and the corporate Democrats would not just casually, like, if something were to happen to Biden, be like, okay, then how about Bernie? I know that, but if he were in, he would at least have an argument of like, hey, he's the only person left in the race. He's the only one, he's this number 2 in number of delegates that have been amassed. So, you know, hanging around until the end I thought made sense. It's what he did against Hillary Clinton. But, you know, in some ways he tapered off worse now than he did against Hillary. Against Hillary, he was very competitive until, like, the end. It took till after New York before it really looked like he had no chance then. So, all right. After all the bullshitting and all the failing, oh, I cursed. As soon as I said, oh, kids are allowed in here, oops, I cursed. Sorry, kids. I am not somebody to be looked up to. All right. So I'm going to play the what-if game first. Now, that does not mean that, you know, you can absolve Bernie and his campaign of all their mistakes, because I don't. I really don't. Ultimately, the responsibility lies with them. And they were wrong. They were wrong. And they made a lot of, like, very big mistakes. But if we play the what-if game for a second, if Bloody Monday never happened, Bernie won. Bloody Monday, as all you guys know, but nobody outside of people who watch this channel knows, Bloody Monday is the day that Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar dropped out. It was right before Super Tuesday. They dropped out. They endorsed him. There were reports that all of this was orchestrated by Obama. And at the same time, you know, Elizabeth Warren stayed in. So stop and think about that for a second in retrospect. You have the centrist candidates, with the exception of Mike Bloomberg, but the centrist candidates who were actually getting the votes, they dropped out. They endorsed Biden. The other so-called progressive lane candidate, Elizabeth Warren, stayed in. And what you got was a perfect storm. What you got was the worst-case scenario where the people who dropped, who were going to support Amy Klobuchar and who were going to support Mayor Pete, they ended up supporting Biden. I mean, that's what the numbers show. Biden's campaign, for those of you who don't remember, in the first 3 states, I mean, he was, like, doing abysmally, like, as bad as you could possibly do. He was towards the bottom of the pack. And so his campaign needed an injection of adrenaline. Now, he did do well in South Carolina, and you can't take that away from him. But, you know, I don't think he was doing well enough to topple Bernie, because Bernie had his strong 30% block in every state. Bernie had the giant win in Nevada. Bernie, you know, had most votes in Iowa, and he won New Hampshire. And I don't agree with the argument that, early on there were already red flags. A little bit, but not enough to be concerned because Bernie was winning. We could have a conversation about red flags when he starts losing. So you want to have the conversation at South Carolina? Got it. We'll have the conversation then, and it's a fair conversation. But in the first 3 states, any, concerns about red flags, it's overstated because he was winning. And when you're winning, you are by definition doing well, and by definition, doing to some extent the right things. So if we allow ourselves to play the what if game here, the reason why I think 2020 hurts more than 2016 did is because I sincerely believe without Bloody Monday, if Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar stayed in the race for Super Tuesday, I think that Bernie definitely would have won Super Tuesday overall, and that would have given him more momentum going forward. And I think it's very likely that Bernie would have gotten a plurality. He would have gotten a plurality of support, which means that Bernie and his people have the best case at the convention, where we could actually say, if they try to steal it from us, I mean, everybody would agree, like, you're stealing it from the person who had the most votes. He may not have had a majority, but he had a plurality, you're stealing it. So, but that's the what-if scenario if Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar stayed in for Super Tuesday, and even probably stayed in longer than that. And by the way, reports were that Mayor Pete specifically was not initially cool with the idea. Mayor Pete specifically was like, nah, bro, nah, I want to stay in. Because he thought he was going to do, not bad for a random mayor from South Bend, Indiana, who is a political novice on the national scene. For him to go as far as he did already it was all to him. He's thinking, wow, I'm knocking it out of the park here. So he wanted to test himself to see how he would do on Super Tuesday. And apparently it took a lot of convincing to get him out. So I think that Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar both got promised positions in a Biden administration. And I think there's a decent chance Amy Klobuchar is the VP pick. Now, I don't know for sure, that's speculation, but I think they probably had to offer something big like that in order for her to drop out as well. I think it's either going to be Amy Klobuchar or Gretchen Whitmer, who's the governor of Michigan. It's going to be one of those two to be VP. I don't think Kamala, although that's what all the speculation is going on right now. And the reason I think it's not going to be Kamala is because Biden had said very clearly a number of times, I'm going to put a black woman on the Supreme Court. Now, to most people, you go, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to pick a black female VP, but in establishment politician world, that's exactly what that means. It means I'm not going to pick a black woman to be my VP, so don't get mad at me because I didn't pick a woman of color. I picked a woman, but not a woman of color. But don't worry, I'm going to put a woman of color on the Supreme Court. So that's like the hint of like, don't be upset when I pick a white woman. So I think it's either going to be Amy Klobuchar or it's going to be Gretchen Whitmer. And they're both obviously terrible. But anyway, that's the what if game. The what if game is, what if Bloody Monday never happened? Bernie was definitely the favorite. Even with all of the mistakes that he made, I still think he was the favorite. And the other thing that we could say in the what if game is, what if Bernie had a stronger media apparatus to help him? And on this one, people like me and TYT and a lot of the lefty channels, I certainly feel some of the blame here because I'm just not big enough and they're not big enough to have the impact where we control the narrative. We're only responding to the narrative. So we're still, largely speaking, ancillary players in the game here where we don't have enough eyeballs watching us and there's not enough people watching us where we have so much power that we can swing elections. Whereas corporate media, you can argue, absolutely does. Because here's the deal. In 2016, even though everybody, CNN, MSNBC, all the nightly news, CBS, ABC, you name it, they all hated Trump. And they all went after Trump aggressively. But he always had his oasis in the desert, Fox News. Fox News, maybe very early on, they weren't pro-Trump. But pretty quickly, they switched to being pro-Trump. And so Trump, he has his like one man against the world thing going on. But he always had support. Whether or not he realizes it, he always had the support of Fox News. Now with Bernie, theoretically, it's like, oh, he should get the support of the left-wing channels. He should get the support of, MSNBC, for example, but they're not actually left-wing, and that's the problem. They're corporate Democrat central. They're the propaganda arm of the corporate wing of the Democratic Party. So Bernie didn't have nearly as much support as Trump had. Now, again, he had people like me, but we're not big enough. We don't have enough eyeballs watching us to really have that impact. And this is the other part of the what if game that I'm allowing us to play for a minute. What if MSNBC actually did what MSNBC is supposed to do, which is rep the left-wing point of view, and what if MSNBC was massively pro-Bernie? Then again, I think we'd be having a different conversation now. Because, people were told over and over and over and over and over, like the smug default assumption is like, well, obviously Bernie's not electable. Obviously he's too far left. Obviously he's too extreme. Obviously you want to beat Trump, and the only way to beat Trump is to go with a tried and true politician like Joe Biden. Now at the beginning, they didn't even like Joe Biden early on. They wanted anybody but Joe Biden of the centrists. So they would have taken Mayor Pete, they would have taken Amy Klobuchar, they would have taken Beto, they would have taken Kamala Harris. Like, there were all these centrists that they prioritized, the media prioritized over Biden and Bloomberg. But when push came to shove towards the end, and it was clear it was going to be Biden or Bernie, oh boy, did they fall in line. And there's so few pro-Bernie voices on these networks, and you don't get a pro-Bernie narrative coming out of these networks. So that really hurt him. That really hurt him. So this is the full extent that I'm willing to play the what-if game. What if Bloody Monday didn't happen? Okay, Bernie probably wins a plurality in that situation because he wins Super Tuesday, has more momentum going forward, and picks up and cleans up doing pretty well. Even if Biden, has some degree of a surge, I think Bernie still gets at least a plurality in that situation. And then the other part of the what-if game is, what if there was actually a strong left-wing media that's actually left-wing and supported Bernie in the same way that Fox News supported Trump? And I'll tell you, man, it hurts to think of these things because we were right there. We were right there. And again, I think the criticisms of Bernie are a little too extreme in this sense. If you don't have the caveat, like, hold on, he was winning in the early states, then your analysis is not nuanced enough. Because I have seen a lot of people act like now, like, oh, Bernie did nothing right at all, and I was so stupid to ever think that, he could possibly lead us, and it's like, no, you're being too harsh there. You are. Because he had the most votes in Iowa, he won New Hampshire, he landslided in Nevada. Remember what the conversation was post-Nevada? I do. The conversation was, is Bernie going to win a plurality or a majority? That was the conversation. So the only thing that changed the game completely is Bloody Monday. Mayor Pete, Amy Klobuchar backing out at the last minute and endorsing Biden. So I think my point here in playing the what-if game is not to absolve Bernie. I'll get to the mistakes that Bernie made in a second. But it's to say, don't ever think that this was a foregone conclusion, because it definitely wasn't. And it reminds me of, in the Hillary documentary that came out, there's a moment where Bernie wins. I forget what state it was that he wins, but he wins it pretty convincingly. And Hillary's team behind the scenes goes, oh my God, Bernie Sanders is going to win. So my point is, as much as you might think, and as much as I might think, and as much as a lot of people who agree with us might think, what's the point? There's no hope. It's all, it's all predetermined. It was a foregone conclusion. Bernie was going to lose. That's just not true. That's just not true. There was a decent chance that we could have won, and with some minor tweaks in, the meta game, we could have won. Now, I'm not absolving Bernie in the campaign, and now let's dive into that conversation, because that's an interesting conversation as what did Bernie do wrong? What did the campaign do wrong? How much of the blame falls on them? Well, listen, I would argue that, yeah, I think Bernie himself is actually mostly to blame. More so than his team, because there were reports of like Nina Turner and David Sirota trying to push him in the right direction, and he just wouldn't do the things and say the things. He wouldn't do the things he needed to do and say the things he needed to say. So I think Bernie shoulders most of the blame. So even though I just allowed us to play the what-if game, you have to be able to adjust to the facts on the ground. And you have to be able to roll with the punches. And what Bernie proved is he simply doesn't have that in him. He doesn't have the ability to adjust on the fly. And it's interesting because his greatest strength became his greatest weakness. His greatest strength was his consistency and his stump speech where he sticks to the issues. And that ultimately became his greatest weakness because we hit a point in the race where the same old stump speech and only sticking to the issues, that actually wasn't enough. You needed to be a little more clever and a little more crafty in how you move forward. So overall, there are going to be three schools of thought. Three schools of thought when it comes to why this ultimately wasn't successful for Bernie. One of the schools of thought is, man, Bernie should have been more aggressive and should have been more like burn down the house approach, more antagonistic. That's what a bunch of people are going to say. Now, I'll tell you how much truth there is in that, and also, you know, the asterisks and caveats in that conversation as well. The second thing is, some people are going to say, no, Bernie should have been less antagonistic. Bernie should have been, you know, not as extreme and aggressive and scary to some contingent of the public. So again, I'll explain to you what part of that is true and what part of that is false. And then the third position is, some will say, there's no such thing as a correct strategy. The entire thing is rigged, so what the hell's the point anyway? That's a sentiment that you're going to come across as well. Now, first to address that last one, there are some people who say, well, listen, look at the exit polls and look at the results. And there's a giant, giant gap between what the exit polls show and what the official results show. And in the exit polls, you have a bunch of states where Bernie won, and then the official results are not that. The official results are that, you know, Biden won or whatever. And so do I think that this is, you know, old school rigging, like legit change the votes in the voting machines and all that stuff? It is possible that that's the case. It absolutely is possible. I don't think the U.S. is like, we're above that, bro. Like, we don't do that here. Oh, please. Like, I definitely think it's possible. But I need more evidence. And it's not enough for people to say, well, look, there's a discrepancy in the exit polls and the official numbers, therefore it's definitely rigged. No, you don't know that, and I don't know that. It's possible it's rigged. I'm not saying, you know, totally shut the door on that. It's not true. But what I am saying is people who would say anything definitively don't know what they're talking about. And, you know, because I saw the exit poll discrepancy, I was like, that is really weird and not cool. But I reached out to that guy, Taniel, who is a great reporter, and he's the guy who kept us, you know, up to date on exactly what was happening in Iowa and exactly all the messing around that was going on in Iowa. And Taniel said in no uncertain terms, he was like, no, this is not weird. This is not strange. You know, you get like, you could get like an 8-point swing from what the exit polls show and what the actual results are. So a guy who literally uncovered the rigging of Iowa, like that was what he did. He was like, hey, they're rigging Iowa. Let me give you all the information on that in detail. These delegates should go here. They're not counting these delegates. It's unbelievable. So he exposed the rigging of Iowa. That dude was like, no, the exit poll, you know, claim is not accurate. It's not fair. And people are jumping to conclusions. So again, to the people who say there's no correct strategy because it's totally rigged, what I say to them is just don't be so sure. Don't be so sure. It's possible, yes, but there's not enough evidence to conclude that with any degree of certainty yet, okay? So I wanted to address that point. Now, I will also say that they're right in the case of Iowa, and they're right in the case of 2016. At what point is there just a finger being put on the scale? At what point does that become, no, you're flat out rigging it? You know what I mean? And there's no doubt that in 2016 and in 2020, there was definitely a strong attempt in a variety of ways to put a finger on the scale. So at what point does that cross the line into it's flat out rigged? Well, you know, again, I think it would be literally hacking into voting machines and changing the votes, and there's not enough evidence to conclude that. But of course, we should have paper ballots and all that stuff. And of course, in the case of Iowa, we know for sure, because we saw everything right in front of us, There was a lot of trickery, a lot of deceit, a lot of questionable things. They didn't count certain precincts, and they verified the results without certain precincts counted. I've never heard of that before. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They allocated the delegates wrong, like a bunch of stuff. Everybody knows this. Everybody, because we followed it in detail. So again, I don't put it by them to do something like totally rig it. I'm just not convinced of it. And I don't think anybody should be convinced of it because the discrepancies in the exit polls and the official results are not enough yet. Okay? So that's how I would address that point. Now, to the point that he should have been more antagonistic, my answer is mostly yes. So he needed to make more clear that the establishment is the problem, the establishment is the enemy, the media is the problem, the media is the enemy, and Joe Biden is the problem, and Joe Biden is the enemy. Now, I'm not a big fan of a gratuitously aggressive strategy. I'm a big fan of the counterpunch. So in other words, you could be relatively nice to whoever and whatever, but the second that they cross a line on you, then you open up the gates of hell on them. And actually that's what Trump did so brilliantly, is that when he was on stage, he wouldn't never throw the first punch, but somebody, Jeb, Marco, whoever, would say something against him, and then he'd be like, you know what, man, screw you, and he'd go at the jugular. So he did. What I would have loved to see is what would happen if we had Bernie Sanders policies in Bernie Sanders himself, but Bernie had that Trump energy to him. And that Trump energy is like, I don't care. I'm just going to say whatever I want. And you can't stop me. I'm just going to say whatever I want. Now, ultimately, I don't think Bernie has that in him. He doesn't. He doesn't have it in him. But Bernie's policies with Trump's energy, I do think that would have been a more successful strategy. There is one area where I hedge on that, though. And it's, you needed to find a way to be more antagonistic towards the media, more antagonistic towards Biden, more antagonistic towards the establishment, while also doing the exact opposite when it comes to the people. And when I say the people, I mean like the people who don't agree with you, the older voters, because you needed to win more of them in order to win the election. So they're actually, in certain ways, Bernie needed to be less antagonistic. So here's what I mean by that. They did a campaign in the middle of the election season, hashtag no middle ground. Now, when I first saw that, I was like, this is awesome. I love it. He's standing up for our values and what we believe in. But now in retrospect, you look at it and you go, hold on. What's gained by doing that? Because here's the deal. Everybody agrees with Bernie on policy. The overwhelming majority of the country agrees with him on policy when you go issue for issue. So you're going to get the young voters, and you're going to get many older voters too. The only way you wouldn't get those older voters is if you did something to scare them off. And I do think that Bernie doing hashtag no middle ground, Bernie calling himself a democratic socialist and really, doubling down on that, tripling down on that, never wavering. I think that ultimately a lot of the older voters who fancy themselves middle of the road, even though they might agree with Bernie on the individual issues, they were scared off from that. And they thought, hey, that is not going to be able to beat Trump. That's not going to be able to beat Trump. And really, electability was everything in this election. Because how could it be that we see in the exit polls on the issues, everybody supports Bernie, but then they ended up voting for Biden, and we don't have to guess because the people told you that electability was their number one issue. So Bernie needed to find a way to keep all the young voters that he was getting to come out for him. 80% of the young voters went for Bernie. How do you get all of those young voters to still come out and vote for you and support you? But also, how do you chip away at the older voters? Bernie lost the older voters in as strong numbers as he won the younger voters, and more older voters turned out. So it was like 70 to 80% for Biden when you go to 55 plus or thereabouts. So imagine if Bernie only lost the older voters 60-40. If Bernie got 40% of the older voters, we'd be talking about, him being the nominee. So what do you do to get those voters on your side? Well, if they're so concerned about electability, you have to be able to make a convincing case that Joe Biden is not electable and you are. And how do you do that? Guys, I'm not sure if I should say this publicly because I like keeping private conversations private. But I gave the Bernie campaign the exact talking points that they needed. Now, there's one person I blame for not adopting him. One person. Bernie Sanders. Because I just told you, I know as a matter of fact, David Sirota and Nina Turner, these are people who agree with my sentiments on this. The campaign manager, Faz Shakir, agrees with my sentiments on this. There's one person who doesn't, apparently, and that's Bernie. Bernie refused to say, Joe Biden can't win. Joe Biden can't beat Trump. Joe Biden can't beat Trump. He can't beat Trump. He's struggling. He's not doing well. He can't beat Trump. He never said that. He refused to say that. In fact, he said the opposite. He said the exact opposite. When asked, he would say, I do think Joe could beat Trump. That is like, when the first time I saw that, I went, oh, okay, so we're going to lose. That was my thought when I first heard Bernie say that. It was the day after Super Tuesday when he got shellacked. One of the questions was, softball down the center of the plate. Hey, do you think that Joe Biden can beat Donald Trump? He goes, I do. Not only are you supposed to say no to that, but you're also supposed to say, Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton. We just ran this experiment in 2016. Remember when Hillary Clinton lost to Donald Trump? You know why Hillary Clinton won, right, in the primary? Because she's the more electable one, the safer option. And what happened? That's right, she lost. There was a big hashtag on Twitter, Bernie would have won, that people ran with for a very long time. You want to know why? Because Bernie would have won. I'm a very strong general election candidate. I get the exact people that we need. We need young voters to win. We need independents. We need swing voters. We need the former Trump voters. I win every single one of those categories. Joe Biden is like Hillary Clinton. Don't run that failed experiment again. You run the so-called safe centrist, they're not so safe. In fact, he's not so safe. He's also not so centrist. I'm the centrist. Because I reflect the will of the people on all the issues. I'm right smack dab in the center of the country. I'm the moderate. I'm the moderate. Joe's the extremist. I'm the centrist. Joe's the extremist. I'm the actual safe option. Joe is the risky option. Joe's just like Hillary Clinton, and she lost. He's going to lose too. This is what he had to say. If you told me, Kyle, you have to give me one correction for the Bernie, just one correction for the Bernie campaign, it would be compare Joe Biden to Hillary Clinton and say you're more electable. That's it. If he had done that, if he made this argument every day from, a couple months before Iowa until today, he would win. Because again, the numbers show it, the data shows it. That's the main reason those older voters went for Biden, is they casually thought, yeah, he's the only serious one who could beat Biden. Or who could beat Trump, excuse me. He's the only serious one who could beat Trump. It's Joe Biden. What am I going to do? I have to vote for him. Even though I like Bernie on the issues, I can't. What am I supposed to do? I have to. See, that's the thing. Bernie won in what he was trying to do. If he was trying to push an agenda, if he was trying to get people to agree with him on the issues, congratulations, you win. But it just so happens to be the case that it's not that when people agree with you on the issues, that translates into votes. In fact, it didn't. It decidedly did not translate into votes. So, that is Bernie's biggest mistake. If you told me, correct one thing, it's say that Biden can't beat Trump and say that he's like Hillary Clinton and that you are the actual safe option. So I'm going to get into in a second what I plan on doing in the general election. And I know there's going to be a variation on opinions across my audience and across the entire left. And that's fine. But I'll tell you guys what I'm going to do shortly. But let me just run through it one more time. The ultimate breakdown here of what Bernie and the campaign did wrong. By the way, I think the campaign is getting too much blame. And I think Bernie is the one who deserves more blame than the campaign. Because I think the campaign was trying to push him in the right direction. And he's stubborn and he wouldn't do it. And he doesn't have it in him to change and to adjust. All he has in him is that stump speech, which made him famous and important in the first place. But that stump speech, when the time came to adjust and add in elements of, calling Joe Biden corrupt, for example, he wasn't able to adjust. He wasn't able to make the arguments he had to make. But, so, what Bernie did wrong, he should have been more antagonistic towards the establishment and the media. Get into a fight with the media. Only 13% of the country trust them a great deal. So they're not that liked. So you could win those fights if you take them head on. Be more antagonistic towards the establishment, the media, and Joe Biden. Shouldn't have called him, oh, my friend. Should have said, yes, he's corrupt. Zephyr Teach Out is right. What do you want me to tell you? Compare him to Hillary Clinton. More antagonistic there. Less antagonistic towards the middle-of-the-road older voters. And you could have crafted some arguments to make them relax a little bit and support you more. It wouldn't have hurt him to not do the hashtag no middle ground. It wouldn't have hurt him to not call himself a democratic socialist. Because what you could do is not pivot at all on the policies, because people agree with you on the policies, but just pivot on what you label yourself. Because if they all fancy themselves moderates, then just say, you know what, yeah, I agree with you, I'm moderate too. Yeah, I'm with you. He's the extremist, I'm the moderate. I really think that would have helped. So less antagonistic towards the middle-of-the-road older voters. Find ways to appeal to them like what I just described. And the other thing is, don't feel like there's zero hope, because that's not true without Bloody Monday. Even with all of Bernie's mistakes, without Bloody Monday and without a totally hostile media, he would have won. He would have gotten the plurality. So don't feel like, oh, there was never any hope to begin with. What the hell was the point? Because that's just not accurate. And you're a lot more sure of that than people in the establishment are. People in the establishment are like, God damn, we're up against an insurgent left flank of the party that is not messing around, and who knows, they could at some point take us over. So ultimately though, the fact that the Democratic establishment was more organized than the Republicans in 2016, that's why they were able to pull off Bloody Monday, and why they were able to put Biden over the edge. But he's in serious trouble. He has real electability issues moving forward. And, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because you guys know I was saying there's a 80% chance Trump wins re-election before all this madness, but now I'm of the belief that it literally is a 50-50 election. Even though Biden is super weak and his brain's not functioning, they kind of were able to put him over the edge by hiding him during the primary, so why wouldn't you do the same in the general? And the fact that Trump can't get out there and give his rallies in person, that hurts him. I think that's one of the reasons why he's doing these press conferences every single day. So it'll be interesting. I think it's a 50-50 race right now. Trump is the natural favorite, but with a pandemic and with a depression, which I think we're already in a pandemic, but I think we're going to have an economic depression, all bets are off and anything could happen. You could run a ham sandwich against the incumbent and maybe win in that scenario. But the dynamic could go either way, because sometimes during a crisis, people rally behind their leaders more and support their leaders more, in which case that would bode well for Trump. But when a national crisis drags on too long, at some point, people turn on their leaders, and then they go in the other direction. So it all depends on the date of the election. Will that be when people are too sick and tired of the crisis? Or will that be when people still feel that sense of patriotism and say, yeah, we got to rally behind our leaders to defeat this thing? So again, it's really a coin flip. I don't know what's going to happen. And anybody who tells you they know what's going to happen, they're lying. I've seen a lot of mainstream media takes just assume that Biden's going to win. But a lot of lefty Twitter takes are still on the 80% plus chance train that Trump wins re-election. Again, I used to be on that. I'm not anymore because of everything that's happening. Everything is so volatile. But okay, so what will I be doing in the general election? Well, I will most likely not be voting. I will probably not be voting. Is that subject to change? Potentially. It's possible that when we get closer to the date, certain things could happen, and then I could say, yeah, I changed my mind and I'm going to go vote. I think that if I do vote, the most likely scenario will be that I'm voting for some sort of third party. But I do think that the majority likelihood is that I will not be voting in the general election. Now, why is that? Well, guys, listen, the answer is very simple. I am kind of a social democrat. That's where my politics lie. Although according to one political compass test that I took recently, and what I'm going to do is I'll take a political compass test for you guys on air soon. And so you can see, where I am on the issues and whatnot. But according to this other political compass test, that it was a new one that I just recently took. I'm actually a libertarian socialist. So that would mean I'm right in alignment with, like, Noam Chomsky. But anyway, bottom line is, I fancy myself a social democrat or populist left, and Joe Biden is a neoliberal corporatist. So I simply don't agree with him. I don't agree with him. So I don't know why I vote for him. I don't agree with him. It's that simple. In the case of Donald Trump, at this point, he's basically a standard Republican. He has like a handful of issues where he deviates from the orthodoxy. But by and large, he's a standard Republican. I mean, if you look at his Twitter feed and you look at his rallies and you look at some of his rhetoric, he's not. But that stuff is irrelevant. I care about voting record and I care about policies. And so ultimately, he falls more in the standard Republican camp than people think. So if Trump is a standard Republican and Biden's a neoliberal corporatist, I'm just not represented. So if I'm not represented, I'm not going to go out of my way to cast a vote. Now, I will say this to everybody. I'm not going to blame you if you want to vote for Biden, because I do understand that some people will say, listen, the courts are way too important, and climate change is way too important. So even though I despise him, I'll suck it up and vote for him. By all means, I'm not going to argue against you on that. I'm just going to tell you what I'm doing, and you can make your own, calculation, and you have your own judgment, and you decide what you want to do. I think there are going to be some people in my audience who decide to vote Biden. I think there are going to be some people who vote third party. I think there's going to be some people who sit out. Joe Rogan, his politics, he fancies himself very similar to me on the political spectrum, and he says he's not voting, but he says he would prefer Trump beat Biden because Biden, with his cognitive decline, he thinks that's such a giant risk that you can't go in that direction. So me personally, I'm just gonna sit it out because I'm not represented. Now, some people will hear that and they'll be mad at me. And they'll say, come on, man, like, how could you say such a thing? And they'll say, I'm helping Trump. Yeah, but the Trump people could say the exact opposite. They could say, you're helping Biden. Oh, you're sitting out, you're not voting for Trump, you're helping Biden. When I tell you guys I don't agree with Biden, I say it because I don't agree with Biden. I'm populist left, I'm a social democrat, he's a neoliberal corporatist. So I don't owe him anything. And this idea of like you always, come on, is the lesser evil for a reason. Like you have to vote for the lesser evil. Okay, well if you want to be consistent in that logic, one of the things I tweeted yesterday, because Mehdi Hassan made that argument, oh, lesser evil's the lesser evil. Okay, so what if it was Richard Spencer versus David Duke? Who would you vote for? Now some people go, that's a cheap point. But it's really not, because what you're doing is you're testing the logic of that argument. And in order to do that, you stretch it. You stretch the argument. Okay, let's make it a slightly more absurd scenario than Biden versus Trump. Let's make the scenario two, basically white nationalist racists. Who do you support? Now, my guess is everybody who says, oh, you got to play the lesser evil game, all of a sudden they're like, neither. I don't want either one. So, point is, everybody has moral red lines. It's just a matter of where you draw those red lines. And some people's standards are stricter and stronger than other people's standards. Now, again, I just told you, I'm not going to judge you however you want to vote. It's fine. But I'm just telling you what my calculation is and what I'm doing. And here's the deal. My purity test, and I did a segment on purity tests yesterday. You can take a look at that. It's up on the YouTube channel. But there are multiple kinds of purity tests. There are two kinds. One of them is purity of your personal story and your past. I don't care about that. There are plenty of people who believe terrible things and then they don't believe terrible things. They made terrible jokes and now, they're a different person. So I don't care about your personal story. I don't care if you were a former criminal and you were rehabilitated. Now you're rehabilitated. That stuff I don't care about. But I do have a purity test when it comes to the policies. And my purity test is very simple. You have to support either Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, ending the wars and putting that towards an infrastructure deal, or universal basic income, which I call Social Security for all. You have to support one of those things, and I have to be convinced you'll actually fight for one of those things, or I'm not going to vote for you. And in the case of Biden, of those things, the only thing that he makes gestures towards are living wage and ending the wars. And simply put, I don't believe that he's actually going to do those things, so I'm not going to vote. So, but like, again, I think my purity test is very lenient. My purity test is, I'm giving you 5 of my top policies. I have to be convinced you will fight for at least 1 or 2 of them. That's where I am. That's where I am. And I know he's not going to fight for those. So you know what I did, guys? And again, this is maybe me being even too lenient. I said, okay, if he's not going to fight for any of the issues I care about, I will give him one more option. I will give him one more out. And that out is pick Bernie or Nina for vice president. If you pick Bernie or Nina for vice president, now I'm under no illusions. I still think he won't fight for the right things if he picks Bernie or Nina for vice president. But I'll vote for you. I'll vote for you because at least I know that you have that voice in the room that's pushing you in the right direction, not just on one issue, on virtually all the issues. So if Bernie or Nina's in the room when he's making decisions, there's going to be that moral voice nudging him in the right direction. So I could live with that. I could live with that. What I can't live with is you're not going to have Bernie, you're not going to have Nina, and you're not going to fight for any of my top 5 issues. Okay, then what am I wasting my time for? What am I wasting my time for? And the burden is on him to come to us. And so far, it's just been empty gesturing. And, you know, again, it's a little difficult for Biden, and this is why this choice was so disrespectful. Because we have his record, so we know what he's going to fight for. We know what he's going to do. So there's not even really the open question as to maybe he'll do these things. No, he won't. No, he won't. It's like with Obama in 2008. Obama's rhetoric was kind of all over the place. I mean, he did the hope and change stuff, but at times he appeared very moderate and centrist, and at times he appeared left. But I still had no problem voting for Obama in 2008 because there was enough of a question there that, oh, he might turn into FDR on us. Like, he might go in there and really change stuff in a strong and serious way that could, you know, fix the country. And he didn't. But there was enough of a question mark where everybody was willing to cast the vote. In the case of Hillary, it was harder because she has a long record and her record is not good. So people were like, okay, what am I going to do? I don't agree with her. She doesn't agree with me. So it's hard to vote for her. In the case of Biden, same thing. Except he also has the added negative of cognitive decline. Hillary, even though I don't agree with her ideologically, she was all there mentally for sure. So, I mean, that's where I'm at, guys. So I'm personally not going to be voting most likely. I'll tell you if that changes. The other thing is, if Biden loses, you're going to be blamed. I'm going to be blamed. The left is going to be blamed. If Biden loses, we're going to be blamed. If he wins, you're going to get no credit and you're going to be ignored. I'm going to get no credit. I'm going to be ignored. And the left is going to get no credit and they're going to be ignored. So, this is an abusive game. No matter what, you're to blame and you're irrelevant. And it's my contention that you're not going to be taken seriously until you demand to be taken seriously. And you demand to be catered to. Why is it that those, you know, that the Democrats always focus on running to the center, which is them running to the right wing, like they actually become right-wingers. They're focused on that because they think we have to get those finicky moderate voters. So there needs to be a reckoning and a realization, a light bulb moment that, oh my God, we have to run to the left to get the left-wing voters. And I think one of the only ways that we could even hope to achieve that outcome is to be inflexible. Now, I also think it's possible, even with being inflexible, they're going to blame us. So, okay, so be it. If you're going to blame me either way, then I might as well get blamed and have the leverage. See, that's the thing. From now on, when they blame us for corporate Democrats losing, I'm going to say, yeah, you're right. That's my fault. So you got to take me seriously now. And you have to listen to my concerns. and do some of what I want politically in terms of implementing the policies, fighting for the policies. See, and I think that we all have the instinct of being like, no, but it's not the left's fault, bro. It's not the left's fault. Largely because the numbers show that, like more Hillary voters crossed over to vote for McCain than Obama, and then Bernie voters went for Trump. So we look at the numbers and go, how dare you blame us? But I think from now on we should own it. I think that if Biden loses and they start blaming the Bernie bros, I think we should be like, right, yeah, it's our fault. That's right. We caused that. So you know what? Now I guess you got to take me seriously and you got to listen to my concerns and you have to fight for the policies that I want. I mean, if you're blaming me for the loss, that means you needed my vote and you didn't get it. Well, you better get to work trying to get my vote now, shouldn't you? Shouldn't you? So I think that needs to be our argument now. And what I'm seeing on social media is really gross because I'm seeing Democratic hacks now pretending that they liked Bernie all along. Seeing Democratic hacks acting like Bernie's such a hero. Bernie's such a hero. He's a great guy right here, bro. What a wonderful guy, bro. And if you don't immediately say, you're right, and now I will support Joe Biden, they will turn on you so quick. And they will go from pretending they like Bernie to insulting you, calling you stupid, shaming you, telling you you're pro-Trump, insisting you have nowhere else to go. And I guess what I'm here to do is to say, don't take the abuse, grow a spine, know what you want, demand it. And from now on, because you'll see me doing it too, I'm going to own it. When they blame me, if Biden loses, and by the way, again, I think it's 50-50. I don't know if he's going to lose. With everything going on right now, flip a coin. The election could go either way. But if Biden loses and they want to blame me, I'm going to say, that's right. It's on me. So now you better listen to me, huh? You better try to get my vote. You better try to, give me the policies that I want. Because, or at least some of them, at least pass my lenient test. I have the most lenient test on planet Earth. Agree with me and fight for one or two of the issues that I care about. And that's the thing is that's why this election is so disrespectful. Is that here we are 4 years removed from 2016 and we're right back to where we were then. Plus cognitive decline. But I think lefties understand to one extent or another. I do. I think we understand, yes, there's some degree of compromise that's involved in politics. I think on some innate level, we all get that. We're not going to get everything we want from our candidates. Bernie's rare. He's so rare. I got most of what I wanted from Bernie in terms of policy. Not all, but most of what I wanted. I get that I'm not going to maybe have a candidate like that ever again in my entire life. I get it. But the fact that you're not asking me to meet you halfway, you're asking me to give up on all of my values and all of my policy preferences, on every single thing I care about, that I can't abide. I can't do it. I was tweeting about this yesterday. Medicare for all, free college, living wage, ending the wars, Green New Deal, legal marijuana, abolishing student debt, stopping outsourcing. I could sit here all day and list off all these left-wing priorities. Not a single person on the left actually believes Biden will fight for any of these things. So the argument is, shut up and swallow neoliberal corporatism yet again. I'm not going to do it. I think the fact that we're 4 years removed from 2016 and we're right back in the same place, that leads me to be a lot more inflexible. Last time I gave you guys the caveat of, in a swing state, I'd vote for Hillary. Because I would have. In a swing state, I would have done it. I'm not even saying that now this time around about swing states. I'm not doing it. Because I don't have it in me anymore. I want to vote for Biden. But he's not giving me anything. There's nothing there. So, and also the way everything unfolded with Bloody Monday, how we had it and then they stole it. So I'm like, oh, okay. So you're going to spit in my eye and then say, but you're going to fall in line, right? Hell no. Not happening. So, they want us to give in on all of our priorities, and I can't do that. I can't give in on all of our priorities. I just can't do it. I don't have it in me. And I'm convinced with Biden's record, he's not even going to pass my simple purity test of one or two issues and I need to know you're going to fight for them. He's not going to do that. So then it's Bernie or Nina, and he's not going to pick Bernie or Nina, so I'm out. What do you want me to tell you? All right, now, The other thing I wanted to do with you guys, now, for those of you who are just joining us, I understand that this video has chat disabled. That was a mistake. And I understand that apparently I set the settings for it's okay for kids. Weird. But what happened was I was going to do a stream on my laptop, but YouTube totally changed. YouTube updated the interface behind the scenes. It used to be YouTube Classic, and now it's a new version of YouTube, and they change it every now and then, but basically the old way I used to do a stream, they don't have that option anymore, and I need to get a new browser, and that would have taken a while, so I just whipped out my phone, and I was like, I'll just stream on my phone, and I didn't, whatever I clicked, I wasn't able to click the thing with comments and super chats and all that stuff, so here we are with no comments. Again, that wasn't on purpose. And at some time I'll do like a town hall, a secular talk style town hall. That's not going to be today because of, the rush and just kind of getting the stream up as soon as possible. It's going to be mainly, what I'm doing now, which is talking about what happened with Bernie and what, we should do moving forward. Oh, before I get into the tweets, what I was going to do is read you the responses from the centrist politicians, from the neoliberal politicians of Bernie dropping out, and it's going to make you sick. But the other thing I wanted to do is give you guys what path from here. Where are we going to go from here? Because yes, it is the case, keep it real. Now the era of Bernie Sanders is over. The era of Bernie Sanders, maybe becoming president, being the leader of the left. He's still going to be one of the leaders of the left, but it's not what it was, which is we thought he might be able to become president. And that's not going to happen. And so now you do have some degree of a void on the left. I think that Elizabeth Warren thinks she's going to hop right into that role in 2024, to which I say, LOL. Oh, please. Abysmal. Not going to happen. Nobody trusts you anymore. Nobody trusts you anymore. She totally ruined all of her credibility. Early on, people forget this, she led in the Democratic primary at one point. And then you know what happened? She decided, I'm not going to be economic populist anymore. I'm going to go in the woke direction. And she hired a bunch of former Hillary and Kamala staffers, and then her campaign tanked. You want to know why? Because she went all in on the, who, me? Did you know I'm a woman? Yeah, we know that, Liz. Nobody was thinking about that or caring about that because you were talking economic populism. She was acting like Bernie without being an older male. And so people were like, oh, is that Bernie but younger and female? And in the Democratic Party, there's some, degree of appreciation for identity stuff, and you get some points for that. And so she was leading in the primary. But she fell off a cliff, and she fell off a cliff because she went full fake woke, and she turned on Bernie, and she did the thing about insinuating he's sexist, and then she didn't support him when it mattered, and she did play the role of a spoiler ultimately, come Super Tuesday when Amy and Pete dropped out. So there's we don't trust you. The fact that even after she dropped out, she didn't endorse Bernie, the lack of political courage. But also, it's not just the lack of courage, she just doesn't agree with us. Okay, so if you don't agree with us, noted. Then I'm not going to freaking support you either. So 2024, I think she's going to try to fill that role, and I certainly won't have my support. That's for damn sure. So there is a little bit of a void. So what do we do in response to that? What do we do with the fact that there's a void? Well, I would say that we need to, I think, have some sort of economic populist coalition. Now, I do think it'll mostly be lefties. You might sprinkle in independents, I think will be in there as well. Maybe a handful of righties, but I don't know, because I think it's a little bit overstated that the populists on the right really agree with us. I think that, some of them might sign up for an agenda of Medicare for all, free college, a living wage, ending the wars and putting the money towards infrastructure, universal basic income. Some of them might sign up for that, but I do think it'll be mostly lefties. But bottom line is we need some sort of an economic populist coalition that is united and throws our weight around and, stays true to our values and doesn't play the game and go along to get along. And that's a lot of what I've seen, with all due respect to the lefty groups out there, including Justice Democrats and others. The fact that it took them a long time to endorse Bernie, and they kind of stayed out when it was Bernie and Warren going at it, and they kind of had like a both of them approach, like either one is fine. And then the fact that the day that Bernie dropped out, these groups released a list of like policy demands from Biden. I just think it's naive, and you're just like, you're playing the game a little bit here, because we all know Biden's going to ignore whatever policy concessions he makes. So like, what's the point? Why are we doing this? Why are we playing this game? So I'm a little disillusioned with everybody, if I'm being honest with you guys. I'm a little disillusioned with everybody. So since that's the case, I think the outside game needs to be airtight. And I think we need some sort of an economic populist coalition where we throw our weight around, and we do direct action, but the direct action is around very specific issues. Because, you know, the more I think about it, the more I realize nobody has the right model right now. And, you know, you could argue with the Women's March, they were closed because they got bodies in the streets. But the problem with their approach is it wasn't very specific issue oriented. It was just like, Trump is elected, we don't like Trump, let's go march in the streets. And it's like, okay, and then what? Like, what are your demands? Do you have no demands? Is it just like we're airing out our grievances and we're just venting? Because that's not productive. There's nothing to that. There's nothing good that will come from that. It's just, you know, you're doing the equivalent of exercising. Like, oh yeah, here I am, I'm out here, that's fun. Next. Like, okay, and then what? Like, what's the point here? What's the end goal? So I think direct action is definitely necessary, and it has to be direct action around specific issues. And sorry if you hear the rain in the background, it's raining pretty loud here. And it needs to be as broad as it could possibly be, while being as specific as it could possibly be. So in other words, everybody's going to have to make concessions. Everybody's going to have to realize, like, certain issues we just can't tag on to the economic populist protests. We need to stick to the bread and butter, the big ones that can get the most attraction across the ideological spectrum. And I do think that something like Medicare for All, given that now we know how important Social Security for All is with this pandemic, people need cash and they need it ASAP, I think that could be one of the things that we fight for. Yeah, Social Security for All, Medicare for All, a living wage. Like, we have to keep it very simple economic bread and butter stuff, because we do need to build coalitions that are strong, it's all working people, and it's labor oriented, and it's enough where we can get the support of everybody. So in other words, if we add in like legalizing marijuana, that's not, a lot of people agree with that, don't get me wrong, but you could build a bigger coalition if you stick to the economic stuff. So, and I'm not saying these social issues are not important. They are. But when you start adding in, you know, legalizing marijuana or immigration issues or whatever, fill in the blank, abortion issues, there are plenty of people out there who might not be pro-abortion, or might not have the left position on immigration, who go, well, you know, I do see that Medicare for All, we need to have healthcare for everybody, and this pandemic is really putting a spotlight on that. So, I mean, I'll join you on that protest, but don't add on. We can't make it, like, this is what happened with the Green New Deal. With the Green New Deal, they made it a grab bag of everything that the left wanted. And so the original idea of the Green New Deal was, let's have an infrastructure project that is geared towards taking us off of fossil fuels and moving towards green and renewable technology. That was it. That was the idea of the Green New Deal. And then it became, let's get all of these left-wing groups involved and ask them what they'd like in our Green New Deal. And then they started adding things about things that had nothing to do with, you know, a Green New Deal. Things that were just a grab bag of everything the left wanted. All these different special interest groups throwing things in this one amalgamation of like their wish list. You're not gonna win like that. The chances of that passing, the chances of that getting a broad coalition of support, it's zero. We have to get smart. We have to get serious. We have to win, and win for the people. Win on issues that will drastically improve people's lives right now. And so the way you do that, in my opinion, is we protest on specific issues. I'm totally down for a general strike, you know, saying, hey, we'll grind this economy to a halt until we get our way. But what exactly entails our way? What does that mean? Well, it means we have to build a platform that can get the most broad support that helps everybody, that doesn't become a parody of itself when you start sprinkling in too many special interest ideas. So there's going to be debate and there's going to be discussion about what the exact issues are that, you know, we put in there. But I would argue, I mean, listen, obviously I told you guys some of my top issues, so I would be inclined to think that those should be the issues we protest on, and some of you guys might disagree on some of them, some of you guys might disagree on all of them, but it needs to be economic, it needs to attract a broad coalition, and it has to be simple. So the ones I like: Medicare for all, free college, living wage, ending the wars, and putting that money towards infrastructure and UBI. And even that is too much. I'd probably simplify that to like Medicare for all, free college, Medicare for all, living wage, UBI. If I had to pick three, no, I'm sorry. Medicare for all, living wage, UBI. Yeah, is that what I said? I don't know. But those are the three I would probably pick. Medicare for all, living wage, UBI. If I had to pick, like, okay, we're going to do an economic protest, and we're going to put a lot of energy, a lot of effort into this, and have these clear, specific goals. Imagine if we get 1 million people in the streets for Medicare for all. Imagine if we did that. Guys, when we put pressure on Congress, this was back in the early days of Justice Democrats, and we teamed with a bunch of other groups. All we did was say, I did it, Cenk did it, and others did it. We were like, hey, call your representative and tell them, you better vote for Medicare for all or I won't vote for you. You know what happened? We went from like 12 people supporting Medicare for all to over 100. So in other words, the pressure worked. That's just phone pressure. That's just on the phone. If we get 1 million bodies in the street pushing for Medicare for all, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? They're going to feel the pressure. Oh my God, we got to do something. We got to do something. We got to do something. At some point, when you put enough people in the street, at some point they start feeling like, I might not even be physically safe right now. And if they start feeling like they're not physically safe, you're going to get some degree of change that comes from that. Now, I'm not a fan of violence. Everybody knows that. I think it's immoral and counterproductive. But I do support peaceful, nonviolent protests that will drag the economy to a halt. Totally fine with that. So I'm definitely down for a general strike. I'm definitely down for getting bodies in the street. But I'm also for making it about specific issues. And not caving until we get what we want. Keep bodies in the streets until we get what we want. And I think that that's a lot of the downfall of the women's movement and Occupy, is that it was more of just a general feeling of like, things are wrong, let's get out there. But it needs to be more issues oriented, because think about the last time we put specific pressure on Washington. Probably the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were passed. So you had a guy who was by everybody's description, a Southern racist. That's what Lyndon Johnson was. He was a Southern racist. He used the N-word casually, N-I-G-G-E-R. And, you know, he's the one who passed the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act and signed it. It wasn't JFK. It was Lyndon B. Johnson. We got a Southern racist to give black people rights. Why? Because of the bodies in the streets, because of the pressure, and it was around specific issues. So if we do that with Medicare for all, if we do that with Social Security for all, if we do that for a living wage, I think we could win. I do. Now, so that's really the best I have for you right now, is that with a void of leadership, it's on us to get out there in the streets on specific issues. I can't stress that part enough. It has to be specific. But there is one other thing that I am hugely in favor of now. You guys have heard me allude to this before, but perhaps not as much as I should have talked about it. We need a direct democracy law. Now, that's not as radical as it sounds. We actually have direct democracy in 27 states. So the majority of the states have one degree or another of a direct democracy law. What they do is they have some sort of process to determine what the issues you're voting on, and then they put those issues directly on the ballot, so that when you go vote for, you know, whatever you're voting for in that election, congresspeople, senators, local politicians, whoever you're voting for, you'll see, like, okay, who do you want? They'll give you the names. But then also, it'll say, you know, measure 37, whatever it is. And then it'll give a little description, like the one that we had here in New York. And we don't have many of the direct ballots here, but every now and then we do. One of them was like, do you want to allow casinos in upstate New York? And I voted yeah, because why not? If they, you know, bring jobs to the region and might help out an area that's economically struggling, and I'm just in favor of freedom and having casinos in general, so why not? So I voted yes on that. But bottom line is, I got a direct say in what's going to happen in my state. And I love it. Who doesn't love that? Who doesn't love having the freedom to impact important decisions that affect us? And, you know, I think there's something about that that fulfills people, that when they have a direct impact. And this is one of the arguments, you know, for some degree of democracy in the workplace. Now, I wouldn't, perhaps unlike other lefties, I wouldn't mandate that by law, but I would give people the option. If you want to have a worker-owned co-op, if you want to have democracy in the workplace, by all means, go right ahead. And I think that direct democracy, not only does it feel good, but it's also, it's intelligent on principle. Now, does that mean you could vote on absolutely anything? No, because the way that it works is constitutional issues are off the table. So in other words, if you held a vote, you know, in 1966, and Southern segregationists were like, you know what? Let's bring segregation back. I don't like that they officially got rid of it. You wouldn't be able to vote on that. Why? Because constitutional rights are off the table. So as soon as we deem, like, you can't vote, should we vote to take away Jeff's free speech rights? No, you can't do that because it's off the table. It's a right. Rights by design and by definition are off the table. So this doesn't mean it's a free-for-all, and it's, you know, some people would call this is when they're trying to fearmonger about it. Mob rule. Well, it's only mob rule. Did I pause there, guys? I don't know. I just got a call, and I don't know if I, like, sort of went out and then came back. I have no idea. I don't know. Anyway, I guess I'll kind of rehash exactly what I was saying there. 27 states we have it. You can't vote on constitutional issues. Those are off the table. But you can vote on everything else, basically. And what happened recently is, in most of these states, we had votes on a lot of issues you and I care about. Like, there were direct votes on legalizing marijuana, for example, or at least having it for medical reasons. There were direct votes on minimum wage. Minimum wage is another one. And what has happened, not every time, but definitely the overwhelming majority of the time, if I had to guess, it's between 6 and 8 out of 10. Somewhere in that range. Somewhere between 6 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 times, the better position won. And again, this is in the respective states. Now, that's even with a tremendous amount of propaganda trying to get people to vote the wrong way on the direct ballot initiatives. So what they do is big money interests come in and they put a lot of money into tricking you and fooling you and saying, don't vote that way, bad things will happen. And then even with the propaganda, most of the time, the better position wins. So what we need is this direct democracy law at the federal level. Now, what I will say is there is an open question. And the open question is it constitutional? Like, will that be struck down by the Supreme Court? Well, I guarantee you, if we were to implement it into law, there would be a case over it, and it would probably get to the Supreme Court. And who knows, maybe they'll strike it down, maybe they won't. But I think we should do it, and then roll with the punches. And then if it gets to the point where the Supreme Court strikes it down and says, no, you can't do that, only the legislature can make any laws, so these laws are by definition null and void. If we were to get to that point, Mike Gravel actually worked on this in the early 2000s. This was an issue that he held near and dear, and I think he viewed it like I do as a way around the corruption. So, since that's the case, he has the infrastructure set up to sue on that front, or to try to do a constitutional amendment if need be. Now, of course, the problem with the constitutional amendment is that it's harder to get a constitutional amendment than it is to just get a law implemented. But I will say this, if we were to get it into law first, then people get a little taste of it. And then when you get a little taste of it, you're not going to want to go back. It's kind of like what happened with Social Security. It was only supposed to be temporary, and then people loved it so much that you just couldn't take it away. And I feel like a similar thing could happen with this. If we get a direct democracy law, and we just have to do it once or twice, people are going to love it. And then even if they slap it down in the Supreme Court, then we might have enough momentum, and we might have the numbers to do a constitutional amendment. We might have the numbers to do a constitutional amendment up front on this. You know, I mean, by the same token, you would think we would be able to do a constitutional amendment when it comes to corruption and money in politics, but that appears to be stalled out. So there's going to be a lot of money invested into beating back this idea, destroying this idea. But I would pose it, I know a lot of the left people watching agree with me, but I would pose this to independents as well, you know, and I would pose this to right-wingers as well. Congress has a 22% approval rating. You don't like Congress, I don't like Congress, nobody likes Congress. We don't like Congress. We just don't like it. We don't like Washington. They're corrupt, they're terrible. So given that that's the case, even if you don't love the idea of direct votes on specific issues, don't you think it would be better than Congress? Don't you think it would be better than how Congress is doing? Like, don't get me wrong, we're not talking about abolishing Congress here. We're just talking about a process by which we get anywhere from 3 issues to 5 issues on the ballot to directly vote on. Imagine if when you had to go vote and make the terrible decision, Biden versus Trump or third party or whatever, imagine if in this election you go there and you also get to vote on minimum wage. Are you in favor of raising the minimum wage to a living wage of $15 an hour, yes or no? Are you in favor of legalizing marijuana nationally, yes or no? Imagine if this was on, are you in favor of ending the Iraq War, yes or no? Imagine if this was on the ballot when you went to go vote. It'd be amazing, right? You'd be, oh my God, I'm actually impacting the world around me. Isn't this wonderful? Instead of feeling totally powerless. So my question to right-wingers is, even if you don't love the idea, I'm already telling you that constitutionally you'll be protected in terms of nobody's coming for your rights. That's off the table. So we can't, in other words, we can't have a democratic vote on, should we ban all the guns? Can't have it. Second Amendment protects guns at least to some extent. At least to some extent, you can't ban all of them. So if I'm telling you your rights are going to be protected, and you know Congress is not working for you and it's corrupt and it has a 22% approval rating, wouldn't you think, well, this is obviously going to be better than Congress. Even if I don't like it, I know it's going to be better than what we have now with this. Don't you think that's true? Wouldn't you like the option, the opportunity to have your voice directly heard? I'll tell you right now, even if I happen to be on the wrong side of some issues and I vote and I lose, at least I know that my voice was heard. At least I know that on that specific issue, I voted a certain way and I may have lost, but at least I had my input. And I think everybody would feel that way to one extent or another. Even if you're a right-winger and you lose on some of the issues you care about, hey, at least I got a direct say. At least I got a direct say. Now, the biggest issue with this would be we would have to do our best to fight back against the corruption of billionaires spending money to propagandize on the wrong side of a lot of these issues. But I do think, because the evidence right now is that the better side wins the majority of the time, I do think that we could overcome that. And even if, let's say they win, they're able to propagandize on 4 out of 10 issues. Well, getting 6 out of 10 issues right is way better than Congress is doing right now, because they're getting like 9 out of 10 issues wrong. So, you know, I think that this is something that we need to put a lot more effort and energy into, particularly because right now, I mean, what are we going to do? We don't have a left option now that's serious, that's viable, that's real. Just isn't there. So we're going to have to at least wait another 4 years for the presidency. Now, I do think you should also put a tremendous amount of effort and money into the congressional races and the Senate races. Like, for example, I think everybody should take their recurring donation that they have to Bernie Sanders and do it to Shahid Buttar. because he's trying to take down Nancy Pelosi, and that would be the next biggest win we could possibly have, is to primary Nancy Pelosi and win. So everybody who's watching this, who's donating to Bernie, you take that money now and send it to Shahid Buttar, if you can afford it. I know it's tough times for everybody because of a pandemic and a freaking depression. But he needs our support, he needs our help, and that's our next goal. But there's going to be a void at the presidential level now, for sure, guaranteed, for at least 4 years, probably longer. So since that's the case, we have to deal with the reality as it is. And the reality is, okay, now it's Congress, now it's the Senate, now it's the local level. A lot of DSA people run and win at the local level. So focus on that, fight for that, put energy and attention on that. But to me, the two biggest things are going to be getting our bodies out there on the street when we can, not during a pandemic, obviously. Getting our bodies out there to protest and strike on specific issues. Medicare for all. The big ones that we could get a lot of people. Living wage, 80% of Americans agree on that. We can get people on that issue. We can mobilize on that issue. So protesting on specific issues and a push for a direct democracy law. That's my new thing that I'm obsessed with, is a push for a national direct democracy law. Because that is, in my opinion, I agree with Cenk Uygur. His number one issue is corruption. I agree with him in that he's right, that if we were to get the private money out of politics and have publicly funded elections, you would have politicians elected who are more likely to represent you and me. I definitely think he's right on that. I think that's true. But in my opinion, you have a more direct way around the corruption. Because what he's trying to do is end the corruption. Agree, keep fighting on that front, I'm with you. But there's a more direct way right around the corruption, which is, what if you were able to vote on 5 issues every 4 years, directly? Every time we have a presidential election, here are the 5 major issues for you to vote on. You want to talk about getting your voice heard, you will literally get your voice heard more that way. And we would be a community. We would be a country again. Instead of, we're basically in a corporatocracy. We're run by the corporations and the rich. We're run by them. We don't have a say. What I'm putting out there is I want to have a direct say. I want all of us to have a direct say. And the way you do that is with a direct democracy law. Now, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to talk to, all the lefty hosts who I know and I'm friendly with and I'm familiar with. And I'm going to try to sell them on this idea. And really, I'm just a freaking guy who runs his mouth on the internet. That's what I am. And a lot of the other lefty hosts fancy themselves the same way. They'll tell you, I'm just a guy who runs his mouth on the internet. Or girl, respectively. And if we can just get them to start talking about it a lot more, and I'm going to start talking about it a lot more, and we're going to start pushing this issue, I want this to become in the conversation as seriously as, Medicare for all, for example. Because now everybody knows about Medicare for all. The polls are through the roof on that. And I want to push this into our consciousness. If I could contribute to the national conversation, calling UBI Social Security for all and pushing for Social Security for all. If I could contribute to the conversation, a national direct democracy law, and can help in any way, shape, or form getting that implemented, that would be everything to me. And again, Mike Gravel actually led the charge on this in the early 2000s. I want to commend him and thank him for that, because what he did was vitally important. But it's time for all of us to take the torch and run with it, because I think that could change so much. Because even, like I said, even in a worst case scenario, we get this implemented and we win on 6 out of 10 issues. Right now, we win on almost none. So that would be huge, huge. So anyway, those are the things that I'm thinking of now. I will end by, and I'm sorry for those of you who joined us late. Let me just say, I know. I've been alerted that this video apparently is set so that young people could view it, kids, and apparently there's the chat's disabled. That wasn't on purpose, guys. I was planning on doing a town hall, but what happened was I was getting ready to launch the stream, and YouTube changed the interface completely, and I needed a new browser. I would have had to download a new browser. I said I'm not going to do that, and so I just whipped out my phone real quick and did a quick stream like I'm doing right now here with you guys. So it's just, I just whipped out my phone and was like, I'll just do it on this very quickly, because I had said, oh, stream in 15 minutes, and it was already pushing on 30 minutes. So I needed to get the stream up and going. So clearly I just whipped out my phone and ended up using my phone, and I wasn't able to like get the settings exactly how I wanted them because I'm a boomer as well as I'm in a rush. So anyway, at some point we will do, you know, a secular talking smack town hall type thing. We will do that. But I gotta figure out what the hell I'm doing first and stop being a boomer first. Anyway, I will end by reading you, God, this is so sad, by reading you what, oh, peanut butter, gross, because I had the peanut butter crackers before. I'll read for you what the neoliberal corporate politicians were saying when Bernie dropped out. And it's annoying. But anyway, Andrew Cuomo actually tweeted yesterday, as soon as Bernie dropped out, he goes, New Yorkers will be able to vote from their homes. And I think they changed the date. It was late April, now it's late June. But he waited until Bernie dropped out to say, yeah, we'll have you vote from home. Because he was going to force people to go to the polls if Bernie stayed in. Because, you know, that keeps turnout low. Turnout low helps Biden, hurts Bernie. So it's ridiculous what they're doing. It's pathetic, and I hate them. And I will never forget Bloody Monday, and I'll never forget who's not on our team, and they will never have my support. They will never, you know, I'll never look past it. I'm going to remember all of it. All right, so I'm just scrolling to find all the tweets. Let's start with David Axelrod. David Axelrod, you know, former Obama administration guy. Here's what he said. Bernie Sanders bowed to the math in acknowledging that Joe Biden will be the nominee. He used the time today to laud his movement, but if his goal is to defeat Donald Trump, he'll have to make a more affirmative case for Biden and why his supporters should support him. I really wish that Bernie had a little bit more of that Trump energy in him, because I would love it. What did Trump say when they asked him, are you going to support the eventual Republican nominee? He was like, I'll get back to you. Gangster. That's him saying, yeah, maybe I'll play ball, maybe I won't. I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you anything. Imagine it was Jeb Bush. Would Trump be out there like campaigning for Jeb Bush? No. No, he would have told them to go kick rocks. So wouldn't it be great? And listen, I get Bernie actually believes, okay, Trump is way worse than Biden and we need Biden, and like he actually thinks you 100% should have Biden over Trump. So I'm not going after Bernie's sincerity. I just wish he was a little bit more of a gangster. And he was a little bit more, he had a little bit more of that Trump energy where he was like, you know, no, I'm not going to play ball. No, I'm not going to do what you want me to do. It's not on me to get more supporters for Biden. It's on Biden to get more supporters for Biden. Why are you not pestering him? Why are you not bothering him? Well, what are you talking about here? It's unbelievable that they always flip it. It's always on Bernie. Bernie, you got to do this. Bernie, you got to do that. It's never like, hey, we got to work hard for this. But that's how this guy thinks. Hey, you got to make your supporters fall in line, right? You going to do that? You going to do that? Oh, my God. God, I hate them so much. They're so entitled. Everything about them is so entitled. You owe me. You owe me. Fuck off. Ah, oh, cursed and we allowed the kids in. Damn it. I cursed again. Okay, sorry. Anyway. Oh, Matt Iglesias, he's a Vox guy. He tweeted, important to recognize that Biden's party unity problem is going to be driven by the Bernie sphere media, Chapo Trap House, Jacobin, Current Affairs, the Brunigs, rather than by Bernie personally, and he probably can't fix that problem. So I tweeted that I'm actually a little bit triggered by the fact that I was left off that list. I resent the fact that I was left off that list. A Vox guy saying like, Bernie media, the Bernie people, they're going to be the ones who are really going to hurt party unity. And he left me off the list. Like, what am I, chopped liver? Do you not know about the show? Do you not know about me and what we do here? Like, come on, man. Like, throw me in there. Say that I'm to blame. Like I said, and I'm not kidding about this, from now on when people blame me or blame you guys, blame the left for a potential Biden loss, because I don't know if he's going to lose. I think it's 50-50. But if Biden loses, if they blame me, I'm going to be like, you're right. It's my fault. That's right. Blame me. Correct. I caused it. So I guess you got to work extra to win me over this time. Go ahead. I'm listening. Try to win me over. Here are my policies. Which one are you going to support? Which one are you going to push for? That's how you're going to get my support. You need my support. You just admitted it. So, okay, what are you going to do? This is what we're going to do. We're going to flip it on him. All right, let me get to... By the way, Bernie went on Stephen Colbert last night after he dropped out. Listen, this annoys me. It really does. And it annoys me because Trump had Fox News in 2016. He had Fox News. And so he wasn't out there alone. He had a backing. Now, Bernie, in theory, should have had MSNBC. You got the right-wing network that's backing the Republican nominee. The left-wing network should have backed the left-wing candidate early on, Bernie, but they're not really left-wing. They're corporate Democratic hacks. So all Bernie had was us. He had a home in new media. And when I say us, I don't mean just me. I mean all of left new media. But honestly, we are not big enough yet to get him over the finish line. And also, we weren't utilized. The Bernie people didn't utilize left-wing media nearly as much as they should. They should have. So I wish he would realize that people like Colbert, all the mainstream media, they're his enemies. The View treats him with disrespect every time he goes on, and then he keeps going back on. These people don't like you, Bernie. In fact, they dislike you. So why, I don't get the urge of him to, still make an appearance with the Cool Kids Club when the cool kids hate him, don't like him, and are not going to treat him fairly. You have a home. Use that home. You know? And I don't usually do interviews, so I'm not talking to me specifically. I'm just saying, why are we pretending like these people are okay with you and cool with you when they're not? And it's, kind of sad in a way. It's hey, go be a good little boy and play ball with them. And it's why? Why do that? He should have been more like a Trump approach to the media of just I don't like you guys, you don't like me, go ahead. I'll sit here and answer your questions and be as kind as I can, but the second you cross me, I'm going to open up the gates of hell on you. But that's not in him. When Whoopi Goldberg was pestering him and badgering him, he was just sitting there taking it. And it's oh, that's so weak, man. Come on, you gotta realize what's happening. Don't just pretend everything's all good and they all like you. They don't like you. Acknowledge that and adjust to that reality. But he doesn't do it. By the way, they also said that, oh, Bernie didn't say anything nice. CNN argued Bernie didn't say anything nice about Biden when he dropped out. Meanwhile, this is what Bernie said. Today I congratulate Joe Biden, a very decent man who I will work with to move our progressive ideas forward. That's what Bernie said about Biden. And they were not enough. Not enough. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay. I'm getting there. All right, here we go. Mayor Pete. So Mayor Pete tweeted when Bernie dropped out, I've admired Bernie Sanders' courage for 20 years and loved getting to know him this last year on the trail. He and his supporters are a tremendous force, and I'm looking forward to teaming up to end the Trump presidency and open the door to a better American era. Bro, weren't you just saying that he loves dictators last month or 2 months ago? Weren't you just saying that? You went from homeboy loves Fidel Castro and he's dangerous for the country to I've always admired his courage. I hate these people. I hate these people. And the thing that's another layer of icing on the cake is that Trump knows exactly how to exploit all this. And he's brilliant at it. So what did Trump tweet yesterday? I'll actually try to pull up. I got it somewhere in here as well. I want to give you the exact wording because it's hilarious. But he goes, he blames Elizabeth Warren. Again, he's not wrong. That's not incorrect. It's not the whole picture, and he's doing it for selfish reasons, but he's not wrong. All right, so let me pull it up. He tweets a lot, so it might take a second to find it here. Here you go. Bernie Sanders is out. Thank you to Elizabeth Warren. If not for her, Bernie would have won almost every state on Super Tuesday. This ended just like the Democrats and the DNC wanted. Same as crooked Hillary fiasco. The Bernie people should come to the Republican Party. Trade. He knows how to exploit this stuff perfectly. So listen, he's right on everything until the Bernie people should come to the Republican Party. No, no, no way. We're talking about a president who did a tax cut bill where 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%, and it's screwing over regular people in the long run. We're talking about a president who deregulated the marketplace, which helped lead to our next crash. We're talking about a president who dismantled the 2018, the pandemic experts. There was a panel of the pandemic experts. He disbanded them. We're talking about a president who signed a bill that took away your internet privacy rights. If I'm not mistaken, that bill had the lowest approval rating of any bill I've ever seen in my life. I think it was single digits. I think it was like a 9% approval rating of that bill that Trump signed. I could go on and on and on. Assassinating an Iranian general. You know, escalating more sanctions, murderous sanctions on Venezuela, on Iran. Like, bombing, massively increasing drone strikes. Pretending like, you know, he's a populist and then outsourcing over 90,000 jobs in his first year in office. 7 to 9 million people losing their health care. I could go on and on with all the terrible things that Trump has done. Bottom line is, not interested, not interested, not interested. He's basically a standard Republican who pretends like he's a populist. Not interested, Don, but he's so good at exploiting the weakness. Because everybody on the left who I know had the same reaction as me. Damn, he's sort of right. Damn, yeah, kind of screw Elizabeth Warren. Damn, yeah, the DNC did want this. Damn, yeah, this is not like the crooked Hillary thing. And then the final line is like, no, not even interested or close to interested. I'm not going to join you. I'm not going to join the Republicans. I hate them with a burning passion. The establishment Republicans. I got nothing but love for the people who we could work with. We have points of agreement. But like, he's going to exploit it, and he's going to exploit it so well. And you have, the Democrats are so fake. And the Democrats are so like, I'm going to play the serious person game. I, Pete Buttigieg, want to tell you, oh yeah, I like Bernie even though I don't. It's like, you make it so easy for him to just, you know, divide and conquer because you're really bad people, the corporate Democrats, and what they did and how they stole this thing and how at the last minute they did Bloody Monday. Like, he's going to exploit it. He's going to exploit it, and he's doing it right now, and he does it well. So anyway, yeah, Mayor Pete, saying that Bernie, he said Bernie loves dictators, and he's, oh, Fidel Castro, this and that, and then now all of a sudden he loves Bernie. And remember, Mayor Pete is one of the main reasons why Bernie lost. By the way, Obama too, because Obama orchestrated all of that behind the scenes, allegedly, reportedly. And also, we got the news that Obama has been making phone calls to Bernie every step of the way, even recently, and he may have helped talk him into dropping out. He went from hope and change in 2008 to nope and lame this time around. And even in 2012, by 2012, it was clear he wasn't, you know, what we wanted him to be. But Mayor Pete dropped out right before Super Tuesday, endorsed Biden, and he did it, make no mistake about it, if Biden gets elected, this will be proven. If Biden gets elected, Mayor Pete's going to be in the administration. I don't know what position, but I know for sure he's going to be in the administration. And you and I know damn well that he was promised something to drop out. Oh yeah, you want me to drop out? What are you going to do for me? What do you want, Pete? I want to be ambassador to this place, or I want to be in the cabinet. I want to be secretary of this or that. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Now, we'll only know if Biden wins, and that's 50-50. Who knows if he's going to win? But definitely, Pete made a career move and tanked the future of the country and real social democratic change because he's selfish. He's selfish. He is a vapid, narcissist careerist. These guys have no moral core. These guys have no principles. They don't believe in anything. They're just trying to climb that ladder. I want my name in the history books. I want my name in the history books. I want to be part of the Biden administration. I'm going to run again. He's going to run again. Everybody knows that, right? He's going to run again. I don't know what year he's going to run, 2024, 2028. He's going to run. And we have to deal with him for another, oh God, decades in the future. I hate everything. Okay. That was Mayor Pete. Now, let's go to Warren. Think about how far she's fallen. Back in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau days, think about how far she's fallen. Oh, it is the saddest thing I've ever seen. Oh, it's so sad. Elizabeth Warren said, "Thank you, Bernie Sanders, for fighting so relentlessly for America's working families during this campaign. Your fight for progressive ideas moved the conversation and chartered a path for candidates and activists that will change the course of our country and party." You didn't endorse him in 2016, even though on paper, theoretically, you're supposed to agree more with Bernie than Hillary. You didn't endorse him in 2020. You stood around, Liz, with a 0% chance of winning. You see this? That's a 0. You stayed in with a 0% chance of winning. You sat there and watched Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar at the last minute on Monday before Super Tuesday drop out and endorse Biden. It's like watching a slow motion car crash. I don't know about you guys, but I had that feeling in the pit of my stomach. Like at the time I thought maybe this will help Bernie because some people will go to Bernie. I don't know, but I had this feeling in the pit of my stomach like, oh boy, like here comes the slow decline. And Elizabeth Warren sat there, watched all of this unfold. There were reports that behind the scenes, the Biden people were telling her, you got to stay in. Why? Because they wanted her to take from Bernie on Super Tuesday. So clear the path for Biden. Mayor Pete and Amy Klobuchar. Mayor Pete was probably his strongest centrist contender. He would have taken the most votes from him, okay? They drop out, they endorse Biden. Warren stays in to take from Bernie. And voila. Trump was right when he said, hey, the second that they dropped out, if Warren dropped out, that could have changed the nature of the race. Could have changed the nature of the race. But really, if they just didn't drop out at all, that really would have changed the nature of the race, and Bernie almost certainly would have won a plurality. So she watched all this happen. Even after she dropped out, she didn't endorse Bernie. Again, theoretically, on paper, it's supposed to be that she agrees more with Bernie than Biden. I don't see it. Do you see it? I don't see it. You are what you do. See, this is what I'm trying to explain to you guys. You are what you do. If you're a politician and you say, I'm a strong lefty, okay, show me in your actions. Let me see your voting record. Let me see what you've done. The fact that not once but twice Elizabeth Warren was like, yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to basically tank the person who's the only FDR New Deal Democrat in the race. I'm going to tank the future of the country because I feel personally slighted. Now, by the way, what do I think happened with the whole, attempt? Bernie's a secret sexist. Here's what happened. They, behind the scenes, her people released to the media, with her blessing, that story. Oh, Bernie, oh my God, Bernie, he said that. And the idea was she wanted to try to claw back into contention, so she thought, I'll just accuse him of being a sexist, that's it. I'll just accuse him of being a sexist, and I'll do it in a sly, slick way. So what do I think actually happened in the conversation? I bet Bernie said something to Elizabeth Warren along these lines. Donald Trump, because he always says this publicly too, Donald Trump is a racist, he's a bigot, he's a sexist, he's a homophobe, he's a religious bigot. And I think that it'll be hard for a woman to win because we have such a sexist environment in this country and because Trump is going to say sexist things. I bet he said that. So in other words, his argument would have been, because of sexism, it is harder for a woman to win. Now, I actually don't happen to agree with that Bernie argument. I think that in the same way that, polls showed a lot of Americans thought a black person would never be president, and then Obama came along and Obama won twice, because it's like, okay, you think that until it happens. By the same token, you think a woman can't win until a woman wins. So I don't agree with Bernie, but I think he said something along those lines. But Warren twisted it. And she twisted it into Bernie's basically a sexist. And she portrayed that conversation as if Bernie was saying something sexist, as opposed to Bernie was trying to do what he thought was pointing out sexism. So she twists it, she tries to use it to her political advantage, then she pretends like she's not trying to use it to her political advantage. And then here's the main point, guys. She ended up using that as the cover story, so people would assume, that's why she didn't endorse Bernie. No. She didn't endorse Bernie because she's not actually in agreement with Bernie. She's not actually a social democrat. She's more than willing to play along with the establishment. She's more than willing to be the left gatekeeper of the establishment. So she's she's a slightly less offensive neoliberal in terms of her policies, but she's a neoliberal. She's a neoliberal corporatist. And she's with the people that she belongs to be with. I mean, this is who she should be with. All her new friends. Help Joe Biden. It's embarrassing. She thinks, oh, I'm above the fray, I'm going to stay out of it. It's so embarrassing. We had an opportunity twice. You had an opportunity twice to help elect the guy. And so if Warren, when she was leading, if she stayed leading and she broke out of the pack, I guarantee you Bernie would have endorsed her and did everything he could. Early on, Bernie would have endorsed her. If you switch positions and you had Elizabeth Warren in Bernie's position and Bernie in Elizabeth Warren's position, let's say after the heart attack, he never bounced back. Bernie would have done everything he could to campaign and help Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren did not return that favor. So now for her to pretend, oh yeah, you're such a fighter for the American people. Really? So you're saying you like him? You're saying you support him? Now you support him? Oh, when he's no longer a threat and when he might not win, and when he's definitely not going to win now. Now all of a sudden you have positive things to say about him. I do not have enough words to express my anger, my fundamental anger with Elizabeth Warren. I mean, she's dead to me. That's what it is. She's dead to me. I have zero interest in anything. I think she's a total fraud, total hack, total hack. Everything she did that was good, like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, now I'm beginning to question what the narrative on that is. Like, did she actually do all the things that it was reported that she did? Maybe not. Maybe not. It hurts, man. It hurts. We had one good dude in Congress, in the Senate, and he could have won, and now he's not gonna. It's tough. It's tough. All right. Let me see if I have any more here. Oh, Andrew Yang. The Andrew Yang one pissed me off too. So Andrew Yang had famously said, you know, listen. And I like this idea of his. He goes, oh, I'm going to set up a group, and the group's idea is we want to try to get politicians elected who support UBI. Now, I told you guys already, UBI leapfrogged a bunch of issues in my mind, and now it's in my top group of issues. Why? Because this pandemic really put in perspective and context for me just how important UBI is. Because the quickest, best way to help people, cut them a check. Let's go. Cut them a check, give them some money. Everybody's hurting. Let's do what we can. Let's help people out. So I now agree. I'm going to call it Social Security for All because I think that's a better framing, and I think that's what we're talking about here. So I'm a big proponent now of Social Security for All. It's in my top, set of issues. So I like that Andrew Yang is like, I'm going to try to get people elected who believe in this. Great. So he sets up this whole group. He endorses politicians who want to run on a UBI. All wonderful. All fine and dandy so far. Then, after, Super Tuesday 2? He goes, oh, Joe Biden is the presumptive nominee, so I'm endorsing Joe Biden. Now, hold on. You said, when Yang dropped out, he goes, if any politician wants my endorsement, they need to endorse UBI. If they come out for UBI, I'll endorse them. The next day, Tulsi Gabbard does a video, and she goes, I'm going to pick up the mantle of Andrew Yang. I'm endorsing UBI, and I'll be running on UBI. So Andrew Yang came out and endorsed Tulsi Gabbard, right? He didn't do it. He says, endorse UBI, you get my endorsement. She endorses it, and he's crickets. He's nowhere. Has anybody seen Andrew Yang? Where's Andrew Yang at? Did he go somewhere? Is he all right? What happened? She did what he said he wanted, and he's not going to do what he said he was going to do? He didn't endorse her. Now, Tulsi never said anything publicly about that, but I'm sure that behind the scenes she was probably like, what are you doing, bro? I did the thing you said. Now, listen, he might say, you were already out of it. True, but that's irrelevant. If you're a principled person and you care about the policy, you care about the issues, be principled. The right thing to do, if you said it, and you did, I'll endorse somebody who endorses UBI. Well, one person did it in the race, and you didn't endorse him. So you went back on your word. I mean, it's just a fact. What do you want me to tell you guys? It's just a fact. That's what happened. It's the reality of the situation. So, but then fast forward. Now, Andrew Yang, if you look at the platform on his website and you look at the platform on Bernie's website, there's a lot more agreement and crossover there than there is with Andrew Yang and Joe Biden, the neoliberal corporate nightmare. but he endorsed Joe Biden. And he goes, oh yeah, you know, she's the presumptive nominee. Is he? At the time, he wasn't. At the time, he had a lead, and a strong lead, but Bernie was still in the race. It wasn't over. It's that thing that people do when they want it to be over. Oh yeah, no, nothing to see here, it's over, everybody shut up, be quiet, it's done. And then what happens, guys, is that insistence that it's done leads to the reality that it's done. People are so insistent and say it so much. Oh, it's done. Stop, shut up. Stop wasting, your time, your effort. All this, it's over. And then eventually it's like, yeah, well, it is over actually now. Because we drilled it into you from early on when it wasn't over, and then it became the reality. So for him to endorse Joe Biden, I saw it on social media, a lot of his own people were like, no. Some of them, don't get me wrong, some of them were like, yeah, cool. And there are people who are, who are gonna be defenders no matter what. Yang was their guy, and they're like ride or die with him. Okay, fair enough. But I saw that and I was like, oh, that's weird. Endorsing Biden over Bernie. Huh. Not endorsing Tulsi when she said the thing about UBI. Huh. So anyway, that was super sketchy. Congrats now on your new CNN job, Andrew Yang. Hope they're treating you well over there. But he tweeted, Bernie Sanders is a effing hero. Then he says, let's come together to beat this guy. No. Not interested, dog. Not interested. See, because unlike you, I'm going to stick to my test. You had a test. His test was UBI. Now, all of a sudden, Yang made one exception, not the president. Okay, so UBI for everybody else, but when it comes to the presidential game, lesser of two evils. Okay, all right, so I know that's your beliefs. That's where you are. Those are not my beliefs. My beliefs are, and I told everybody my test, I'll tell them it again, my top 5 issues, you have to endorse at least 1 or 2 of them, and I have to know that you're going to fight for it. You can't just say it to placate me. I have to be convinced, like, no, you're actually going to fight for at least 1 or 2 of these things. Biden's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. So then my fallback was, all right, pick Bernie or Nina for VP, and then I'll support you. Not going to do that either. Not going to do that either. And by the way, Andrew Yang kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit, because there was a story that was leaked. I think it was like, oh, Biden is going to pick a woman for VP. And then Andrew Yang responded to it on Twitter, and he was like, oh, interesting. That's not what he told me. And that, honestly, the comment made it seem, and a lot of people were speculating this, myself included, it made it seem like the reason Andrew Yang endorsed Joe Biden is because Biden may have floated VP for him. And now Biden's not going to do that. He's not going to give Yang VP. But it's possible that the endorsement happened because he dangled VP in front of his face. It's possible. We don't know for sure. But that response from Yang was weird. Oh, that's weird. It's not what he told me that he's going to pick a woman. He said he was going to pick me. Like, that was the vibe of what he was saying. Yeah, so. Anyway, now is when I would take your questions, but I will not be doing that because we set up the stream at the last minute and super chats are accidentally off, and I'm reading you said, bruh, you did your live stream to be child friendly, your chat is disabled. I know, it was an accident. Everybody's like warning me. It's okay, guys. It's no big deal. I only curse like once or twice. The kids can watch this. Yeah, anyway, just to recap for people who joined late for like the 3rd time. I had tweeted, all right, stream in 15 minutes. And I went to go do the stream, and YouTube totally changed the... last time I did a stream it was YouTube Classic. That was back in the day. Now it's they have the new YouTube, and the interface is totally different. And so I went to do the stream the way I normally would, and they were like, "You can't stream." And I was like, "Wait, why?" And they were like, "You need a new browser. You got to get the browser." And I was gonna go get the browser. I was like, "Okay, but this is gonna take a while." So I made, and I was already a little bit late. It was already past the 15 minutes, and so I was like, I'll just do it on my phone real quick. And so I set it up on my phone 1, 2, 3, and in the process of setting it up on the phone, it just disabled. It apparently made it kid friendly, and it disabled the chats, which was all an accident. But anyway, I'll figure it out, and then at some point in the near future, I'll do a secular talking smack town hall style thing. So yeah, but I will wrap this stream up. I love you guys. I hope everybody's staying safe out there, and stay inside. The tweet I keep going back to, which makes me laugh, is when Trump was all caps with exclamation point, social distancing. I love sending that to people. Whenever people tell me like, oh, I'm going to the store, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'll just send them the social distancing thing because it makes me laugh. But anyway, I hope everybody is social distancing. And I hope you're staying in as much as possible. I hope the depression is not impacting you and destroying you and hurting you like it's hurting so many people. What a mess. It's all such a mess. John McCain is trending. What in God's name? What in God's name? Why is John McCain trending? Why is John McCain trending? This is so weird. I feel like I hopped in a portal and I'm back in like, whatever, 2012 or something, 2008. Oh, Trump said something about John McCain. On National Former Prisoner of War Recognition Day, we honor the more than 500,000 American warriors captured while protecting our way of life. We pay tribute to these patriots for their unwavering and unrelenting spirit. Oh, and it's the liberal resistance people. Who cares, guys? They're like, oh yeah, well you didn't like John McCain, and John McCain was a prisoner of war. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? I can't stand, like, the resistance liberals. They're so stupid. They're so stupid. They're fake outrage. Anyway, alright guys, I'm going to wrap this stream up. Love you all. Stay safe out there. And yeah, I will, I'll talk to you soon. Oh, what I'm going to do is, what day is, today's Thursday, tomorrow's, on Saturday, I'll do, not a live stream, but I'm doing one of the political compass tests, and I'll do it for all you guys. And yeah, I don't know, you can check that out if you want to check that out. I just wanted to throw that out there, switching it up a little bit, doing a political compass test. You can see my thought process on a lot of this stuff, and I'll leave the political compass thing in the video description box, so if you want to take it too, as and watch along as I do it, that's cool. Or you want to wait till afterwards and do it, but I just want to let you know, gonna do that probably Saturday. So anyway, love you guys. Everybody stay safe. Peace.